was there. I don't have to listen to it.
This week's show because it was a disaster.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I am Tony Rousseau, no relation, and you're listening to Day Drinking on Delmarva, a podcast about life and culture on the Delmarva Peninsula. Todd drinks because he gets to live here. I drink because I have to live here. And I haven't really been living here for the last 2 weeks, so I've been drinking extra because I've been in Jersey. But we got a lot of fun stuff for you. We're going to do a couple holiday things and a couple promotional things and the occasional shout out. But before we get to that, we always like to shout out a small business that is that we like, and this week it is me, insofar as I'm a small business. I have another podcast that I accidentally launched in November. I'll tell you about that in a second, but it's called Destination Delmarva. If you type Destination Delmarva, you'll get me, and that is a place where you can subscribe to the email and get updates as updates occur. I've been doing this Ocean Pines podcast for, almost 2 years now, a year and change, I think. And it's growing. It's if you don't live in Ocean Pines, it may not be that interesting to you. But if you do live in Ocean Pines, it's very interesting to you.
I saw to interrupt your commercial. I saw a thing today that was really smartly said in the difference between a target audience and a demographic. Ocean Pines podcast is a target audience. Yeah. You know. It is a small niche market that when you target an audience, you maybe inadvertently and maybe on purpose, you repel other audience. It's not a demographic. It's not a demographic of just like retired folks. It is people who live in the Pines. And I think it's smartly said. I expect it to grow because it's a vigorous community of people.
And I think in the new year, I don't know if I'm going to announce it because you guys are all my friends, but I think I'm writing I'm updating their history. I think that they accepted my proposal, and I think I'm starting on that in January. But more on that as it happens. The other thing about driving people away, I saw this really interesting. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about one of the ways that newspapers. One of the many, many ways that newspapers generally have failed their audience. And one guy pointed out, he's like, as soon as newspapers started doing video, the first thing they did was put a 30-second ad before you could watch the video. And they wondered why no one was staying to watch the video. Like, do the stuff. Like, and that's the opposite of what we do, right? We're like, we're going to do it all. And if anybody thinks to pay us, that would be cool, right? Yeah. But the newspaper's like, if you want to watch this video, first you have to watch 30 seconds of a car commercial that you wouldn't watch when you were on television. And people are just bouncing. It just made people bounce, and they still do it. I mean, if you go to some of these websites, it is. I was on one yesterday. It was absolutely atrocious. My regular job covering the funeral industry, I go to a lot of small paper websites because they write about the local funeral home, And it feels very, very 1990s now as everybody's getting their last gasp of pop-up ads and blinking ads and auto videos and all of those things. It can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to tell you is I wanted to start a podcast in January called Destination Delmarva. I think you may have noticed, if you're a regular listener, I've been announcing it on and off again that I'll be starting this new podcast on January 1st. In the beginning of January, I've been hedging a little bit. I had done one episode. I've done 2 episodes. I uploaded one and I got it all set, and I scheduled it for some date in the future, expecting to go back to it. Forgot that I had done it, and then one day I woke up and they're like, a new podcast and I'm like, so much for my great big marketing blitz. This is why I'm poor. This is why I die poor. So I secretly put out my great huge debut podcast, hard hitting, but it's a good
secret even to yourself.
Secret even to myself. I surprised myself. I had a soft opening for my own podcast. that I didn't invite myself to, I guess is the way that you would put that. But if you'd like to see it, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's real, really a very fun podcast. It's about a lynching in Easton in the 1920s. So
good times for.
All right, so that's the end of my commercial, and let's talk about your stuff before I bring the room down any farther, and then we can bring the room down if we need to later on.
Here's what I am coming to be delusional about. We've been doing this for a long time, and we always joke about how we're terrible at the advertising part of it. I think we're great at getting together on a somewhat regular.
You know what?
Basis.
Don't make me start, but yes, no one has. It's rare that anyone does a podcast this long and doesn't make any money from it and keeps doing it.
Yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
And again, to reiterate, it's not like we see each other all the time. This is like
literally,
you're my coworker. I mean, you're my friend, but like you're more like a coworker that I see once a week, once every 3 weeks in some occasions. And we spend our time together and we talk and we go back. So this is what my delusion is. We're not going to make it big, Tony.
That's okay.
What's going to happen is our body of work is going to be found long after we're gone, and they're going to and it's going to be picked up by somebody, the great thinkers of that time in the future.
Absolutely.
And as an example of what it means to do something either for the joy or for the sake of just doing it, or the stupidity of thinking that it might turn into something. And that will be our legacy. I'm quite sure of it at this point.
Oh, and beyond that, we're also the only ones who are talking about. We've been talking about things that are going on the peninsula for the last 20 years, 15 years. It's 20. It's gotta be. It's like 18. I think it was right 2007. But the larger point about that is everyone else, who else, like, try to find a story that I wrote in 2007. You can find, you can find me cursing. You can find me making fun of the remember the guys who were doing the protest about getting circumcised?
Yeah. Yes.
Outside of Ocean City. And they were all dressed in white and they had their crotches painted red and they're like, stop circumcision. Like, that's still out there, right? Our coverage of that is still in existence. Who else's coverage of that is still in existence? Nobody's. So yeah, we have contributed to the overall oeuvre, and we will continue to do so. And you're adding to it. You've been, even though I haven't been doing very much in the podcast world on Delmarva, you've been busy with Dewey Raw.
Yeah, so it's fun. I think maybe it's the year of you threatening to launch Destination Delmarva that I felt the pressure to relaunch Dewey Raw, which is the podcast that I do for the Dewey Beach area. It started really 8 years ago when Starboard Raw opened their second location, or the Starboard second location, which was a Raw bar right across the street in small town Dewey Beach. And and just trying to capture some of the craziness and chaos and fun that has happened up there. And, this past summer, I've mentioned a bunch of times, I've started actually, instead of just being industry adjacent, I am now in the industry as a manager a couple days a week at our buddy's place, at 410, right here in Berlin, Maryland, which is an amazing place. Love it and love the team there. But now I'm a manager and I'm spending days, hours at a time in the restaurant industry. And I felt like, I think you said it when I first started working there, is like, I should start like taking notes of some of the experiences that I've had. Well, that's too much work for me. So instead, what I've decided to do is relaunch Dewey Raw and make it a little bit more of an industry podcast. Yeah, talking to people and just being like, and having more rote questions, I think, that can follow a similar routine. and talking to owners, managers, servers, even patrons about what hospitality means is the overarching theme. And then, of course, like we've talked about, we can still do a couple of the man on the street shows of just interviewing intoxicated people in the middle of the afternoon, walking the streets of Dewey, and it's been great, and I've been pretty consistent with it, and it's,
killing it.
And we're on Substack. So definitely go there and subscribe. I like
link
the
in the show notes, and
it
is recommended on the Day Drinking Delmarva podcast. It's recommended.
Yeah. So and I think it's been great, and I've talked to some good people, and are even looking to maybe even expand the footprint of, instead of just it all being about Dewey, because that's also just like the Ocean Pines podcast is very much a niche market. It pulls from a lot of metropolitan areas of people who vacation there. But like we interviewed our friend Newman, who has the Rehoboth Ale House and is also a big music fan, and changes his establishment into pretty much a listening room for some great regional artists that we know and love, and it's been a real treat to to experience that. I'm like, he's like, I'd like to showcase some stuff, or I'd like your help in showcasing some stuff. I'm like, well, this is the easiest point of entry because it's kind of mutually beneficial. It's something we're doing, and all hail podcast as our message often goes here on our pod.
Yeah, and what I think is nice about doing the expected questions is the listeners, because I listen to podcasts that do that, and the listeners not only want to know, but they also want to guess. They're like, ooh, when this guest is on, I wonder how they're going to answer this question, or like, the whole audience is waiting for the question to be asked so that they can judge the answer one way or the other. But it's a good way to make people feel involved, I think. So that's super cool.
And if somebody cares enough, they can listen to a podcast before they're on it and get a little bit of an expectation of what to expect. I had listened to one a music podcast or a podcast about musicians, and it felt very rote, and I felt like they were kind of rushing through the questions, and it's just funny to me because I listened to it because I was interested in one artist, and it was a little bit of a turnoff at first because it was like two hosts, and the guy was almost reading a script, and it's like, oh, okay, and then moving on to the next thing, what's your process, and like kind of basic stuff. But then I would listen to another episode, and I realized the benefit of doing that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, they do pepper in some other things. And so I've spent the last couple of weeks refining that and adding some things in, doing some some quick hit questions. And I don't know, just trying to make it paced out so that it's a little bit predictable for people who are listening. And then when it's too predictable, just because of the people in that area and my chaotic nature, it changes up before it gets boring.
Well, and also there's like the presentation is part of it. Like it doesn't have to sound rote. It can be rote and not sound rote.
Yes,
and
yes.
that's the thing. Like we know the question is coming, but as the person who's answering the question, you don't want to sound like you're just in the person's way and like, well, I'll answer this so you can get to your next question so you can be done reading off the fucking list or whatever. I mean, right? It's like,
right.
You want to be engaging as an interviewer, and you're already engaging as an interviewer. So that's I think a major difference. There's nothing wrong with asking the same question, except if they're really like, if you were a tree, what kind of tree could you be, or one of those like.
I do throw one of those in.
What is that?
But specific to the restaurant industry, and it's been fun so far. But it's like, if you could be, instead of the what would your last meal be or something like that, it was if you could be any food item, what would you be?
No, that's fun. No, that's fun.
You know,
no, that's fun. That's not be a tree. That has to do with the show.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Also, I got, and I think I'm going to soften it. The last couple times I've done it, because this is such a common theme within the industry. You know, I start with I want to get your cold reaction to this too. I start with who are you, what do you do, and how long have you been doing it? You know, and they answer, and I've been in the restaurant business since I was 18. I've been doing this for 6 years, 16 years, whatever their answer is. My follow up is, so when are you going to get a real job?
I love that.
Because that always comes up. And then, you know, and I feel like that's one of kind of risky me. Most people know me and know that I don't mean that, right?
Well, you don't mean it in a bad way.
I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's kind of a, you kind of see people's shoulders drop when you ask that, because they've been asked that their entire career, you know? Maybe I'll soften it a little bit and ask, like, what do you say when people ask you that sort of thing?
Well, I may have told this story on the show before, but I have several nieces and nephews. I have lots. I have 6 brothers. I have also nieces and nephews to go along with them, and 5 brothers. Sorry, I'm the 6th. And I send my nieces and nephews a text. A video text on their birthday. And I'm like, hi, it's Uncle Tony. My present to you this year is I'm not going to call you and ask you about school and make you pretend to care. Love you. Have a great birthday.
Yes.
Like, I've been doing it every year for like 5 years. And like, I think they look forward to it at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad he's not going to call and say, so how's school? So where are you going to college? So what are you majoring in? Yeah. Stop.
It's like,
did you like getting those questions? No.
Yeah, Uncle Tony gets it. That's the end. That's the end result of that.
I'm going to put this on hold for a second and cough.
Please cough away.
Sorry about that.
No.
So this weekend I was in New Jersey. This past weekend for the holiday, for the Thanksgiving holiday. I guess it's a week ago now, and several things. I don't really spend a lot of time on the internet as much as I used to, and I don't listen to the same podcasts I used to. So I didn't know that Kevin Smith has moved back to New Jersey. I don't know if you know any of that.
Maybe
so
not.
The filmmaker Kevin Smith put out a movie that I did not see about people putting together and making their own movie theater and reopening this movie theater. And he had such a good time doing it that he just kept the movie theater, and it's in Atlantic Highlands, where not far from where Clerks was made and where he went to the movies as a kid. I went there to the movies as a kid too. There's not a lot of movie theaters in the area. And so he bought that theater and he turned it into a Smod Castle. I forget what it's called. It's not the Smod Castle's in Los Angeles or whatever, but and he does like, live shows, like, he'll present movies, like, every now and again. He just presents a movie at the movie theater. And also they have, first run movies that they'll put. It's a 2-screen theater, I think. And I would love to, that is the right way to spend your evening, your middle age, certainly, if you've made a bunch of money and you're tired of fighting to do it. I mean, it's just, I was very, very happy for him. I thought it was very cool. And of course it's cool to see the movie theater back open downtown, because it hasn't been open in a long time.
Yeah.
So but I didn't know that. I was just in Atlantic Highlands shopping for junk, because I like to go junk shopping. It's one of my hobbies on Small Business Saturday. And the problem with the junk shops, the problem with lots of places, especially in New Jersey and New York, is they won't let you use the bathrooms there. No one will let you use the bathroom unless you buy something. It is so offensive to me. A lot of times I feel like I want to go out and pee on the front door and say, well, call the police, see if they get here before I'm done peeing,
Yeah.
But I saw the best thing in response to this that I've ever seen in my life, and I might do it. This old man.
So now it's premeditated.
Well, yeah. Well, no. This is all right. Uncharacteristically me, right? Okay. This is you know how they say kill them with kindness. This is spite them with kindness. So this old man who had asked to use the bathroom was told that they don't have a bathroom, and so he left, and his wife was continuing to shop, and after a little while, not too long, he came back with a cup of coffee, and he gave it to the lady behind the desk. And said, well, they said I had to buy something in the store, so I bought this for you. And he gave her the cup of coffee. He's like, since I know you guys can't get out, you're stuck there behind the desk and you can't go anywhere. So here's some coffee that I bought for you while I was peeing. He didn't say the while I was peeing part. That was implied. But I love that. I would never do something like that. I'm embarrassed at how cold my heart is that it would never occur to me to buy something. Like I'll go in and they'll say you have to buy something before you use the bathroom, and I won't ever do that. But let's pretend I did. I would say, okay, I'll have a turkey sandwich and I'll use the bathroom and then I'll leave. And give the turkey sandwich to whomever you want. I'm not paying for it either. But I don't put myself in those positions because I know I don't react well to those positions, to those. But I feel like if I went into a place and they wouldn't let me use the bathroom because they didn't think I was going to buy anything, let's say it was a coffee shop, right? Then I could go to the Starbucks next door, pee there, and then bring the Starbucks coffee back. And I'm like, well, I went in there and I could see that you could use a cup of real coffee. So, and I mean, I don't like Starbucks coffee, so I probably wouldn't do that. But you get the point. I think that.
Well, I like
it was just. Go ahead.
I like the point too that it was a cup of coffee, which also implies if you don't have a bathroom, this is going to make you need to use a bathroom, right?
Absolutely. It was just, I just loved seeing it, and he was really so nice about it. And I don't even think he was like, I would do it out of spite. I think he was just being like a good guy, like, well, as long as I'm here, I feel like I have to buy something. I'm not going to buy something in this shop. My wife's just looking at junk, so I'll get a coffee, and then I'll feel like I contributed to this business's eventual, output.
Or the if you're really aggressive, to be like, maybe this is coffee, maybe this isn't coffee, but I'm leaving.
One way to find out.
You. Right.
That's wonderful. And the other thing that I wanted to quick talk about a little bit is the I did this funeral story, and it's going to be like this huge breaking news actually that no one will care about that's not in the funeral industry, but there is this woman who stole this guy's identity to become a funeral director. And the guy whose identity she stole, they wouldn't let him become a funeral director for completely different reasons. And there was this big, there's a story in Esquire about it. I think I may have mentioned it on here before. It was a biggish deal. So the guy's a veteran, right? And he comes back from the war. No, he doesn't. He worked in Dover, so he was embalming servicemen and women when they were coming home from the war. And he went back to Texas, and Texas has a rule that says if you've done enough, of this in the military, you can have your license. And they're like, no, you can't have your license. And they've been screwing with him for really, 5 years. But in the meantime, this woman stole his documentation and used it to get her, among other things, used it to apply for a funeral director's license. I don't know if she was successful or not, but she is a funeral director, or at least was last week. And last week they raided her funeral home during a funeral and took her away. So I'm sorry, her name is Unique Green.
No.
And so they took her away. There's only
one Unique Green.
Of course there is. But they did not arrest her. They took her, but they released her when they got her back to the station. They had to get a different funeral director but anyway, so I texted this other funeral director who had his, identity stolen and all these problems. And I did a story on him early in November, and he still didn't have his funeral. He's like, I don't know, it's been years and years in court. We're fighting. Well, I don't. And so I texted him, and I'm like, hey, did you see Unique Green was arrested? And he texted me back, and he said, yeah, also, someone who was looking up Unique Green found out that yesterday they just gave me my funeral director's license. They didn't tell me. So in an unrelated story, they're like, oh, you know what? Let's just put all this to bed before they start digging through this woman's past and make us miserable about it.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad PR if you give the funeral director license to the person impersonating somebody and not to the actual person. Don't you kind of want to have him be quiet to when this all comes out?
Well, that's the thing. And there are all sorts of this is, I mean, I'm going to be continuing to write the story, and it's a little bit more serious. This is a funny chapter of it, but this is a bring down the governor kind of scandal brewing with all the things that are going on there. There's the woman who's running it is she lost a body. The funeral home that she owned, a body disappeared. And they don't know where it is. They still don't know where it is. And rather than say that they lost the body, she accused the dead woman's boyfriend of sneaking in and stealing it in the middle of the night. And she's in charge. Yeah. So yeah, there's Texas is all sorts of kooky stuff going on there. But I'll talk more about that on my next podcast. On this podcast, I am pretty much out of things to say and out of time to say them. How about you? What are you? You all set?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, remember, until next time at the beach,
it's happy hour whenever you say it.